At a certain point in every great rivalry, the stakes transcend championship belts. When two of the era's finest collide, it's about proving once and for all who truly stands atop their generation. And in the light heavyweight division, no rivalry captures this pursuit of legacy more than Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol. The first time they met, it was the most highly anticipated fight in all of boxing. A rare clash between two undefeated champions, each possessing the ideal tools to dismantle the other. Bivol, a master technician with electric combinations and movement, and Beterbiev, an unstoppable force of destruction with calculated pressure and bone-crunching power. What followed was a fight that lived up to the magnitude of the moment. A high-level chess match between two pound-for-pound elites, fought at the sport's pinnacle. But the result didn't end the debate. Instead, it fueled the demand for more. Bivol, despite his masterful showing, fell agonizingly short. And for the first time in his career, Beterbiev settled for a decision victory with his perfect knockout streak finally broken. Two of the very best, one final battle. This is Beterbiev and Bivol's last crescendo, the fight that would decide the world's greatest light heavyweight of today. Both Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol stand today as the leading torchbearers of Russia's esteemed boxing tradition. Their success in the professional game today is a direct product of the nation's rigorous amateur system, where both fighters originally honed their craft and gained invaluable experience. Even though Beterbiev competed in more notable tournaments against elite competition, Bivol himself also remained deeply entrenched in the competitive amateur circuit, with a higher volume of fights. Both entered the professional ranks between 2013 and 2014, wasting no time in making an impact. Their combined amateur record of almost 300 fights made them far more equipped than most prospects to handle the demands of professional boxing.
And again it came because Jackson tried to throw a right hand.
Oh, it's down. Right hand put him away.
They were also journeying through the ranks of an ever-shifting light heavyweight landscape, where established names were fading, newer contenders emerging, and world titles frequently changing hands. But even in these uncertain times, one thing was clear. Bivol and Beterbiev were the standout contenders that one day would likely meet in the ring.
And a wonderful blistering lot of punches, and he's going to go down here.
Incidentally, both in their 12 professional fights and just days apart from one another, competed for their very first world titles.
The judge of distance. Oh, and a beautiful right hand.
Bivol, with precision and accuracy, needed just one round to dismantle Trent Broadhurst and secure the WBA belt. And Beterbiev, 1 week later, overwhelmed Enrico Curling to win the IBF title with a final round knockout.
To a decision as a professional, and down goes Colling, and that's it.
Both he and Bivol had crossed the first major hurdles of their careers. But for these two newly emerging forces, the true mission was to continue their expansion against other elite opponents and break through boxing's pound-for-pound hierarchy. Now, despite their remarkably similar rise thus far, it's at this point of their careers where the two began carving different routes to the top.
The pressure is all on Bivol to look good. Good right hand there from Bivol.
Over the next 5 years, Bivol would make 7 dominant defenses of his WBA world title, flaunting a technically disciplined, patient style of boxing.
punches, he explodes with every punch when he thinks he has an opening.
His exceptional footwork and fluid combinations on the move allowed him to dictate the distance at all times, rarely giving his opponents an opportunity to mount a meaningful attack. And his sharp, disruptive jab served a dual purpose, keeping his opponents at bay while setting up crisp, well-timed combinations that carried flashes of knockout power.
We have to get our amateur. Down goes Pereira.
With such a refined skill set, it was only natural that Bivol found himself backed by one of boxing's biggest promotional powerhouses, Matchroom Boxing. At the time, Matchroom had fostered a strong relationship with pound-for-pound superstar Canelo Alvarez, who had just conquered the entire super middleweight division and was looking for further titles at a higher weight class. For Bivol, the timing couldn't have been better. Canelo, the sport's biggest attraction, was willing to gamble his status for a shot at the WBA champion, and with his recent run of form and #1 pound-for-pound status, he opened as the clear favourite. The ice-cold Russian, however, remained unfazed by a smaller man stepping up to his weight class. Over the course of 12 rounds, he exerted his control with his trademark combinations, mobile footwork, and a non-stationary defense. Even with the ever-present risk of Canelo's star power swaying the judges, there would be no controversy. All three judges read in Bivol's favour, securing his status as not just the WBA champion, but also the man who handed the sport's biggest name his most decisive defeat in years. By contrast, Beterbiev didn't have access to the sport's biggest name to skyrocket his profile, but he himself did have an equally powerful promoter in Bob Arum's Top Rank to match him with the division's other world title holders. And during the same 5-year time span, he made 6 dominant defenses and consumed the other 2 belts with violent, unrelenting performances.
Johnson goes down the right hand. That was just a grazing right hand. Johnson melts in front of him.
His IBF reign began by dispatching Callum Johnson and Radovoje Kalajic with 4th and 5th round knockouts.
Will it be 14 for 14 as he comes out and this fight is over?
This then set up a high-stakes unification fight with the WBC champion Alexander Vozdik. Though it's often forgotten, the undefeated Ukrainian at the time was held to the same high regard as both Bivol and Beterbiev. In fact, heading into the fight, he was the slight betting favourite.
Vozdik and Beterbiev, round number 1.
But once the opening bell rang, Beterbiev quickly shattered any illusions of parity.
Vozdik goes down!
With a relentless yet highly technical assault, he systematically broke Vozdik down to become the unified IBF and WBC champion.
Artur Beterbiev is the unified light heavyweight champion of the world!
But Beterbiev's expansion didn't end there. 2 more successful knockout defenses thereafter against Adam Dynis and Marcus Brown set him up against the division's next title holder, Joe Smith Jr.
For the WBC, IBF, WBO Championships of the World.
Joe Smith Jr., a brave, hard-punching veteran himself, was prepared to put everything on the line to defend his WBO title on his own turf. But against the merciless invading force of Beterbiev, his attempts lasted just 2 rounds as he suffered multiple knockdowns en route to a one-sided TKO loss.
Big uppercut! He is stumbling and this is over!
By the end of 2022, the light heavyweight division had become a 2-man kingdom. Artur Beterbiev was in possession of the WBC, IBF and WBO belts, and Dmitry Bivol the owner of the last remaining WBA belt. And any hopes for other emerging talents challenging their reign were also running dry. For Beterbiev, even the talented British duo of Anthony Yarde and Callum Smith weren't enough to extinguish the Russians' hot form. The former fell short in 8 entertaining rounds, whilst the latter was consumed by the champion's power in just 7.
Buddy McGurn has decided, I think, that enough is enough. The referee doesn't need to count. He hasn't seen McGurn.
Bivol himself continued his impressive boxing displays against the highly regarded Gilberto Ramirez and Britain's Lyndon Arthur.
Here he goes again, Bivol. Whenever that happens, and look at him now, body shot.
And the demands for the two champions to meet in an undisputed showdown reached a boiling point.
Big exchange. Oh, he gets him again.
And what made this particular clash even more necessary was the fact that each man, in his own way, possessed the only weaponry capable of dismantling the other.
And a right hand right behind it, and Marcus Brown will take a knee.
Beterbiev's pressure and bone-crunching power stood in direct contrast to Bivol's razor-sharp precision and tactical brilliance.
Right hand for Bivol scores.
He's found his range now, hasn't he? And Ramirez needs to do something here.
It was a clash of 2 pound-for-pound elite forces with no certainty as to which arsenal would prevail. Fortunately for the boxing public, the impressive talents of Beterbiev and Bivol were matched equally by their professionalism and urgent need to prove who truly was the best in their division.
And down he goes after a hard left uppercut.
And despite their initial planned date of June 1st being scuppered by an injury to Beterbiev, their highly anticipated showdown was rescheduled for the 12th of October 2024. When Fight Week arrived in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, even the industry's most educated minds were struggling to pick a winner. But one thing they could all agree on was that this, at the time, was the best matchup in all of boxing. For Bivol, victory would require absolute perfection. His game plan of hit and move had to be executed with surgical precision, backed by supreme conditioning and unwavering focus. After all, across 20 fights, no opponent had managed to hear the final bell against Beterbiev. And for the puncher, sheer power alone wouldn't be enough. His success rested on controlled aggression, one that blended his ferocious punching with patience, consistency, and tactical intelligence. Both men entered the ring knowing that the margin for error was razor thin. It wasn't the high-octane explosive war that most casual observers would have preferred, but it was an evenly matched tactical battle of the highest level. A profound exhibition of fight IQ and technical abilities were on display as both men rarely put a foot wrong. Bivol was impressive in the first half in particular, as his movement, free-flowing combinations and expert distance control prevented Beterbiev from gaining a firm foothold. And not to be outdone, Beterbiev himself edged back into the fight with a consistent, economical supply of pressure to suffocate Bivol's activity. When the final bell of such a tightly contested battle rang, the viewers, as to be expected, were split on who won. One judge had it a draw, reflecting how razor-thin the fight was. But when the other two scored it narrowly in favour of Beterbiev, it was clear that his method of forcing the action and chasing Bivol down was what swayed their decision.
Artur Beterbiev!
Although Bivol's disappointment with the decision was etched across his face, he maintained the grace and dignity to accept the result with full professionalism. And after employing a near-perfect game plan against arguably the most dangerous man in the sport, Bivol and his team can understandably feel aggrieved. For Artur Beterbiev, victory came in an unfamiliar form. For a career personified by knockouts within the distance, he had been taking the full 12 rounds for the very first time. But at almost 40 years of age, his performance was remarkably impressive. The ability to match a masterful Dmitry Bivol in such a high-level chess match and exert his authority where required made him a deserved winner in the eyes of many who have since had the opportunity to watch the fight back. Now, as the undisputed light heavyweight champion, Beterbiev approaches the inevitable rematch with a new purpose. Not to chase the crown, but to defend it. And for Bivol, the challenge remains the same. Execute another near-flawless display of boxing and moving. But in order to leave a more lasting impression on the judges, he'll be looking to roll the dice and take more chances. Whatever happens, one thing is certain. When these two meet again, the stakes will be even higher. This will be the most defining night of their respective careers, to finally settle the debate on who truly has been the greatest light heavyweight of this era.